Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and you may notice my avatar has a new outfit. They released this Beware onesie, and it is one of the funniest outfits I've ever seen, so we're going to be rocking the Beware onesie for a little bit. But in today's video, I'm taking you to the Jungle Cup, where I'm doing a full video to showcase the Jungle Cup's most busted Pokemon, Shadow Watergun Quagsire. This Pokemon is absolutely stupidly strong in this meta, and this team of Furret, Watergun Quagsire, and Clodsire gained me a quick 100 elo, even with me making quite a few misplays to get back to the 3200s. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we get an absolute dream lead in game number 1, leading Furret into Spidops. Spidops, unfortunately, has an absolute nightmare of a matchup into Furret due to the fact that Furret is double resisting Shadow Claws. So Spidops is forced to throw charge attacks if it wants to deal any kind of meaningful damage. Spidops goes for the Rock Tomb. Rock Tombs will apply guaranteed debuffs onto the Furret, slowing down the Sucker Punch damage and the Swift damage as well. But unfortunately for the Spidops, it cannot two-shot Furret in this matchup. So Furret is very comfortable playing out this matchup. Another Rock Tomb is going to connect, and it will still fail to take the knockout, so Furret will get the strike back with a -2 Swift. Spidops lets itself get as low as possible to try and limit the farm for whatever I decide to send in. I'm surrendering switch advantage, but I get a head start on Shadow Quagsire. Out comes Furret from my opponent, and look at the Water Guns go. Water Guns offering incredible fast move pressure in this matchup. Furret is going to bait with the Swift. I farm up quite a bit of energy, and I will go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will not knock out, but it's going to get big damage onto the Furret. My opponent knew even if it was a Stone Edge, they should barely be able to hang on. I'm going to look to throw this Aqua Tail right before they get their Swift. If they shield, I know they're weak in the back, and I can go for a catch onto the Clodsire. There's the shield, and now we get the catch onto the Clodsire. Clodsire more than happy to be hit with a Swift, and they're going to send out Watergun Lantern as their final Pokemon. Watergun Lantern, not the fastest to charge moves because its cheapest charge move is Surf, which is pretty expensive. However, the fast move pressure is going to be a problem. My opponent, very nice overfarm. They're going to be able to take the knockout with the Surf, and now it's going to be a race. Watergun versus Watergun. Who gets to the charge move first? And the answer is Quagsire. Quagsire gets to the Aqua Tail, taking the knockout. In comes Furret. That gets Watergun down, and that's a good game. Hopping into game number 2, leading Furret into Unova Stunfisk. This entire team can hit Stunfisk for super effective damage, so if you see a Stunfisk, you're probably going to win that game. My opponent safe switches into Araquanid, and I bank some energy on Furret before sending out Clodsire. I know that both the Furret and the Shadow Quagsire are going to have absolutely dominant matchups into that Unova Stunfisk, so as long as I can just get some value out of the Clodsire here, I'm pretty happy. Clodsire did get debuffed with a Bubble Beam, and now my opponent will look to get some bigger damage with the Water Pulse. Water Pulse does get me quite low. I'm hoping that even debuffs this Stone Edge will be enough to take the knockout. Stone Edge is going to land, that does take the knockout, and I decide to aggressively pivot back into the Furret. I know I banked a bunch of energy before switching, so I can get a Trailblaze up before they can land a Mud Bomb, and a Trailblaze means that Furret is about to go off. Mud Bomb is going to land, Furret continues to farm. I don't think a Swift would quite knock out here at +1, so let's guarantee the knockout with the Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to be shielded up, but I'm more than happy to shield right back, because I know that with this energy advantage I have, I'll always be able to outpace. I overfarm by 1, CMP tie, and now they have to decide where do they want to use the final shield. They're not going to use it here in the back. They have a Hisuian Samurott, an incredibly cool pick, but I can get the shield with the Swift and then bring in the Quagsire. And look at the Water Guns in this matchup. Water Gun is just shredding this poor Samurott. Oh my goodness. Samurott is going to be hit with a resisted Aqua Tail, but even just off resisted damage, Shadow Water Gun Quagsire is just so dumb in this meta. It's so powerful. Dark Pulse lands, that's not gonna matter. We resisted Water Gun down and take the win. Furret into Guzzlord in the next match. Now this is a core breaker for this team, as Guzzlord beats Furret, and by resisting Water Gun, it's going to be beating the Quagsire as well. So how do I play my way out? Well, Furret in the Zero Shield is honestly not awful. Furret should be able to stay in, land 2 Swifts. My opponent, if they overfarm correctly, will get to exit with quite a lot of energy, but I'm more than happy to absorb energy on Clodsire in exchange for a big Poison Sting farm down. Swift number 2 is going to connect. My opponent will fire off the Brutal Swing. I do have a very high rank Furret, which means this Brutal Swing will barely miss the knockout, giving me an extra Sucker Punch and giving them some extra energy. In comes the Clodsire. I should get quite a few Poison Stings. They go for the Dragon Claw, and there's going to be a pivot. They send in Quagsire, but interestingly enough, they are on Mudshot. Mudshot on Quagsire, I do think, is quite a bit worse in this meta. Having the fast move pressure of Water Gun is helpful in basically every scenario. I know that I have to shield one, so I will end up putting up the shield, tanking the second, and then looking to farm up. Here I'm going to try and throw 7 Water Guns, but I accidentally throw 8. That is a misplay, because it does give my opponent a full sneak. Here, I'm going to throw 1 Water Gun and the move to try and throw in the middle of their Mudshot. My opponent clearly does not like Water Gun, as they will put up the final shield. I decide to shield as well because I can't really Poison Sting this down, and then I'll look to make it to the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is reached, and what a catch! Stone cold catch from my opponent, catching the Aqua Tail onto Guzzlord. They're going to bring in Shadow Scizor as their final Pokemon, and it's going to be a race. Clodsire does get to the Earthquake first, and that should be game over. Earthquake lands, Scizor tanks it on 1 HP, and suddenly it's not so clear. They get the Trailblaze. Will they throw instantly? They do not. They go for the full Mudshot down. They get it. They leave with the move, but the Water Gun snipes them down, denying their energy, and we're able to take the win. Bad lead in the next match, Furret into Dedenne. The safe switch into the Water Gun Quagsire will be answered with Araquanid. Araquanids love to shield and go for the Bubble Beam, so I build up to the Stone Edge and will bait with the Aqua Tail. Opponent calls the bait. That is a stone cold bait call. That means that I'm not generating any kind of advantage out of this mid game. That is absolutely tragic. I should have thrown the Aqua Tail there at the end, but realistically, I was just so shook at that bait call. Araquanid loves to shield and debuff, so that's what I was fully expecting. So to have them not do so was definitely unfortunate, as now I don't have a shield advantage, and that's a big problem, as it's unlikely that they are ABA weak to Clodsire. So I bank a Trailblaze, send in Clodsire in the back. They have Quagsire. I'm not going to stick around. I will resign the match. Furret into Gastrodon. Great lead in the next match. As long as I keep this away from the Clodsire, I should do pretty well. I'm going to farm up, throw the Trailblaze. They wait the turn and catch onto Altaria. That's a really nice catch by my opponent, but I can still play this situation to my advantage. And that's by staying in long enough to put them pretty close to Poison Sting plus Stone Edge range, and then sending in the Clodsire. This way, I get to rebank my energy for later, and even though they're not quite in Stone Edge range, the goal is I still got some very valuable +1 Sucker Punches before switching. I'm going to immediately undertap the Stone Edge because I want the damage on the Altaria. Stone Edge is going to land, and there is the switch. In comes Gastrodon. Gastrodon will need to throw a Water Pulse if they want to take the knockout. They go for the Body Slam. Claude hangs on, and now I aggressively switch back into the Furret. I'm going to go straight for the Trailblaze. They're very likely to shield, but realistically, I'm just after the boost because I can boost up my Sucker Punches, boost up my Body Slams, and generally just make life uncomfortable for my opponent. So now I will farm back up at the Trailblaze, but I'm only going to go for the boosted Swift. My opponent calls it. It's their turn to live on 1 HP, but all this is going to do is just set up farm for the Water Gun Quag. The Altaria is not in a range where they're going to get to a move, so we should see the third. They bring in Altaria, and that's when I knew the game was over, because if they're bringing that in, they have to be weak in the back. There's a Shadow Magnezone. That's unfortunate for my opponent, and they will immediately resign the match. Furret into Abomasnow in the next match. Now, Abomasnow is a Pokemon that I would really like to neutralize on the lead. Abomasnow is a rare Pokemon that does a really good job at shutting down Water Gun Quagsire, as otherwise Water Gun Quagsire is just pretty unchecked in this entire meta. Abomasnow will probably go the double Weather Ball route here, as they will be able to outpace, and I will put up the shield because I need this Abomasnow out of here. Abomasnow is going to go for the Weather Ball. They're going to save switch into their own Water Gun Quagsire, and this could get a little bit tricky. So far, it doesn't appear that my Clodsire has anywhere to go into this team. I don't even build up to the Trailblaze here. I'm just going to throw a Swift, hoping they no shield, but they will go for a double shield, and now I bring in my own Quag. I'm down a massive amount of energy, but I will be able to get to an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail doesn't threaten a knockout, but it is very valuable chip damage. So far, the Claude, things are looking a little bit tough for it with a Quagsire and Abomasnow, but we'll have to see what they have in the back, and they have a Shadow Gyarados. So my opponent, unfortunately for me, has brought 3 Pokemon that can hit the Clodsire for super effective. I put up the shield. Quagsire on very low HP will make the Stone Edge. This gets rid of the Gyarados, but there's still the Quag and the Abomasnow to worry about. I'm checking the top right to see what they bring in. It's going to be the Quag. I send in Furret. Furret, get the Swift. No, we don't get the Swift. And now I bring in my own Quagsire just to take the Water Gun. In comes the Clodsire. Clodsire is going to be hit with an Aqua Tail. Do they have the back-to-back? I'm not going to find out until the very end of the game because they pivot out into the Abomasnow. Abomasnow will put me into Aqua Tail range with the Weather Ball. If they have a move stored, they win the game. In comes Quagsire, but it appears they did not have a move banked. Earthquake takes the knockout, and we win what was a very tricky game. We move to the next match, Furret into Shadow Steelix. Not a bad matchup for Furret, but I have two better responses in the back, so my plan here is pretty simple. Bank a ton of Furret energy for later, and then send in the Quagsire. Even if they have Earthquake, I'm more than happy to take this damage here, and they do. Earthquake lands, that's going to get the Quagsire low. In comes Forretress. Oh, and I get sniped down right before I get the Stone Edge. I could have thrown the Aqua Tail, but I was trying to get to the Stone Edge, and unfortunately it did backfire. They have farmed up to the Earthquake. I respect it at the 11th hour, and that pays off. Earthquake would have been devastating damage, and I need this Clodsire healthy if I want a chance to win this game. Stone Edge does get shielded by my opponent. I'm going to farm up a ton of energy, and again, go for another Stone Edge. We'll have to see, does double Stone Edge do enough? It looks like it will not, and I will actually need an Earthquake. Speaking of Earthquake, they have farmed back up, so I am going to be respecting it once again, and I feel like my shield decisions for this game were both two pretty good ones. Now I will full send the Earthquake, just hoping to take a knockout. Earthquake is going to land, and it does pick up the KO. In comes Steelix. Steelix switched out with the Psychic Fangs earlier. I absorbed that damage, and now I switch into the Furret and snipe with the Trailblaze. Whatever's in back, I want to be boosted. Trailblaze takes the knockout. In the back is Wigglytuff, and this is looking pretty good. I did a good job of preserving HP on the Clodsire, and that is going to be what wins me this game. My opponent looks like they're going to go for a full farm down, but they would need an Icy Wind into a Swift to take home this win. An Icy Wind would not cut it. I don't make the Swift, but they're one off that Icy Wind plus Swift, and I'm one off the Stone Edge, which means after one Poison Sting, I get the Stone Edge, we take the knockout, and that game would have been a lot easier if I just threw the Aqua Tail on the Quagsire, but we're still able to get the win, even despite some misplays from me. Furret, great lead in the next match as I lead into Stunfisk. Stunfisk staying in is a really good sign because that means they probably don't have an amazing response. Or they're trying to go for a catch. I bank so much energy, I bring in the Clodsire, and this trainer does not build up to the Earthquake. If they're going to throw at Sand Tomb, I'm never going to be shielding that Sand Tomb. So the Sand Tomb is going to connect. I continue the farm with the Clodsire. I'd love to farm up just shy of 100 energy before I start throwing a move. So I will farm up just shy of 100, and I'll go for the Stone Edge. Again, this will kind of check to see how much damage that I will need. It looks like with the Sucker Punches, a Stone Edge may actually knock out. Unfortunately, a slight miscount on my part. I play to a CMP tie that I do not win. The Sand Tomb is going to land. I will go for the Stone Edge. This should just about take the knockout. Stone Edge lands, it does take the KO, and they're going to bring in Araquanid. Good news for me is I have a ton of energy on Furret, and I'm going to start using it. Stone Edge is going to be shielded, and now I get to bring back in the Furret. The Furret's very, very low. I took a lot of damage from that Forretress, but I'm going to start boosting myself up with the Trailblaze, and now I can connect with Boosted Swifts. Boosted Swift is going to land onto the Araquanid. Now the question is, can I survive a Bubble Beam and make it to another move? I decide to save my shields, and I don't get there. And that arguably was a misplay. In comes Quagsire. Quagsire gonna look for an aggressive farm down. My opponent is gonna be going for Bubble Beams. However, once the Bubble Beam lands, my Water Guns suddenly look a lot less threatening. They're gonna make another Bubble Beam. I'm again gonna be no shielding. This is so risky, but I know they have no fast move pressure into me with the Stunfisk. So, I'm gonna go for the full Water Gun down. I have 2 shields, basically no HP, but I'm a ground type. What are they gonna do? Thundershock me down? No, they are not. I will be able to survive the Thundershocks to make it to a 3rd Aqua Tail. My opponent knows it as well, and we take the win with the 2 shield flex. Hopping into the final match, and it's Furret into Stunfisk once again. Furret absolutely feasting. My opponent is going to save switch into Fearow, and Fearow, I'm more than happy to stay in with the Furret. Furret being up a turn is such an advantage, because Furret will always be able to outpace as long as I throw my Swift instantly. That denies my opponent the ability to throw and get back the turn that they lost by switching. So now I just win the zeros. If they really want to put up a shield, I will absolutely let them, because this can set up a farm down. Now the question is, do I go for Poison Stings or Water Guns? I decide to go for Poison Stings, hoping that 5 Stings will knock out, but Fearow, it's not bulky, but it is just enough to survive as my opponent connects with the Drill Peck. Out comes Stunfisk. Stunfisk immediately under threat from an earthquake, and then it's time. Shadow Water Gun Quagsire. Quagsire hits the field. In the back is Togekiss, and this game is over. Togekiss, not going to be a big fan of the consistent water gun pressure, and I should be in a pretty comfortable spot to just double shield and water gun all the way down. I don't even have to risk a Stone Edge and think, well, will they shield the nuke? Will they call the bait? It just doesn't matter. I can just go straight Aqua Tail and farm all the way down. The water gun pressure is just way too much to deal with. And they did get some pretty nice peck damage from the Togekiss, but I'm still not in Mud Bomb range. So they can throw the Mud Bomb, but Quagsire just does not care. Mud Bomb lands. Quagsire is going to make it to the Aqua Tail, and with this win, I was able to climb about 100 elo in 3 sets to get back into the 3200s, which should be around top 125 in the world. All in all, I think this is a really plug-and-play, easy-to-use, good climbing team. Furret, it's incredibly versatile and incredibly neutral. Even in its bad matchups, it does have quite a bit of play. And if for whatever reason, Furret is in a matchup that it doesn't want to be in, like a Fortress lead or something like that, then Quagsire is just such a deadly, deadly safe swap. Even the Altaria matchup, having the fast move pressure to put it into Stone Edge range is incredibly nice, and I feel like this team worked out really nicely. I know that the former world champion from 2024, Yakai, was using this team, but with a Quagsire lead, and was using it to great results. So I think these 3 Pokemon can be used in just about any order, and still have really nice results, because all of them have pretty consistent play throughout the meta, but I think the true star of the show, it was the star in the Hydreigon video, and it's the star once again, is the Shadow Water Gun Quag. It's just an unreal Pokemon. It feels incredibly flexible because there aren't really a lot of grass types. So if you run into something like a Shadow Cacturn with this team, I know Axon made a video on that yesterday. Cacturn would probably be a pretty big struggle for this team if it wasn't aligned onto the Clodsire. But outside of that, Water Gun Quagsire, it's a really difficult Pokemon to answer. You'll notice that several of my losses with this team were to opposing Water Gun Quagsires, and that is not by accident. It's a really difficult Pokemon to deal with, and it's a Pokemon that you can use to gain elo in these final few days of the Jungle Cup. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.